Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so happy that you're here and I'm excited about this class. This class is quite an amazing class. It's the class where we go deeper in something that is not so prevalent in our culture in our times, and that is the whole process of ascension. And what normally people think of ascension as up and out, but in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, it's more really an in-ascension process. It's about going within and really embodying the higher self or the divine so that you're fully divine, operating as a full divine self, which is not so often that we have that opportunity or support in our culture for many of us. So, and then, of course, the end of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which was my favorite thing of all, with the way the book it ended with "Go forth and spread the gospel of Mary Magdalene," because Christianity would have been so different had the gospel of Mary Magdalene really been spread. It's just a heartwarming um, thing. So anyway, in the spirit of the sacred, I just want to take my candle and hold it up for a moment and just bless you all with the love and the light from my heart to your heart, that you may know peace, that you may know love, and that we may live in a culture of kindness where the good comes among us, and that we may be the presence of good in all things. Blessed be. All right, so let's take it away. So the first thing we're going to do from the class number 3 was basically the steps of the ascension process. So the anthropos state of consciousness means to be fully awake. And in preparing for a fully awakened state, what we're preparing for is to have the experience of heaven on earth. Heaven on earth is what we're supposed to be having. It's not heaven in the heavens, it's heaven on earth. And we have a very hellish experience right now going on with all these wars and all this division and hate and whatnot. And that was not the intention. That was not the way. So this is really important to have the heaven on earth be, but how do we get there? So we have to kind of look at what is this ascension all about? We're in our culture and our society, we don't even know where the sacred is. Church attendance is dropping off, but most people, and I agree, don't even want to go to church because there's too much dogma and it's not enough heart-centered, love-centered type of work. So, and of course, our culture is a consumer culture, and we're fixated on shopping and easily distracted. There's a wonderful line in the Gospel of Mary that talks about, is it over here or is it over there? And don't get yourself distracted with that. It's where it is it's within ourselves, and we have to learn the process of going within. The other thing that has to happen is we must overcome the fierce conditioning to walk the earth as a divine self, because we are not conditioned to allow ourselves. Even Marianne Williamson's famous quote about, that Nelson Mandela used for his inaugural speech, that when we allow ourselves to be divine, then we give other people permission to do that. And so, but we don't have that in our times and our culture as much. And so it for someone to claim their divine self, to hold their divine nature, to move forward in their divine nature, which means that we're happy, joyous, and free. And that's my experience about it. It's why I do this work, because I love it so much. It's so much more fun. And so I think it's really great to pay some attention to it. But it is not easy. It is the condition to be separate. Our separate selves is super strong. So then we talked about the model, which was an interesting thing, that basically the ascension process is modeled after the pyramids. So at the base of a pyramid, you have the 4 points, which are the base elements of earth, air, fire, and water, right? And then the fire is representing the heart energy, the purification. And from that point, you go up. And when you hit the tip of the in the actual pyramids in the Giza, they say they used to be capped with gold. And so the highest point is what they call the still point. And so there's the expression that says, be still and know that I am God. So if we can get to that stillness, and what does the stillness represent? It represents the chatter of the mind is gone, and we're just at peace. And it's a peace that passes understanding. It's a peace that is it's just it. Well, I've had touch points of this peace in my life when I was so tired of the drama of things that I really, there's a famous Course in Miracles lesson about choosing peace instead of this, whatever this is. So when I really dedicated myself to doing it, I did hit a level of peace that was quite phenomenal. And I was quite overtaken by how special and wonderful it felt to be in a deep sense of peace. So to be still and know that I am the peace of God is a great thing. So, and one of the interesting things about the peace is at the top right corner there is the point of unity is to know yourself as that peace. And then in order to do that, you have to be neutral, because if you're in the duality of good, bad, right, and wrong, you're not going to be very peaceful because you're judging and evaluating, right? And so you have to go vertical, which is the way that we go up. And that's what people normally think about the ascension, but it's an ascension process that's internal. It's internal within us. So the outside corners have to be overcome. Those are the base elements of matter, because we think matter matters, right? and then we start to rise up. So this is the basic structure of the pyramid. And then I've kind of highlighted it and add my own creativity onto it, along with the information about the soul's journey that's outlined in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. So the first corner, which is the corner of the earth, is represented by darkness and fear. So in order to move around this corner and move on, you have to have an ability to overcome fear. Now, this is the basic premises of why the Course in Miracles came on the planet. A Course in Miracles is basically 365 lessons, and the lessons are kind of basically they're in training the mind to understand that there's a choice between love and fear. And so we had such an egoic grip in the mind. Our ego was so attached that we were not able to move into love so easily. And so by learning that there is a choice point and that we choose either love or fear, then that's what happened. People learned to let go of the fear, and fear became defined as false evidence appearing real. And then once that happened, then they could move into love. And suddenly the problem of the darkness of the fear was filled with the light of love. And so the beauty of about the system is that when the darkness is illuminated, it's the end of the darkness. That's the end. That it's over. So you don't have to worry about the darkness anymore, which is a good thing. It could have been worse about how to get rid of the darkness, because people from mankind for years, all movies are based on good and evil, and how do we overcome this darkness and evil? Well, every problem, according to A Course in Miracles, can only be solved with bringing love to it, because the question is always what is needed, and the answer is always love is needed. So when we have love, and we bring love, then we're in a good place. And then as we go around the corner to the next corner, we come to overcoming cravings, which is the emotional waters. And then we're going to come to overcome ignorance, which is the air element, which is kind of lucid. And then we come around to the back corner, and you'll see the blue arrows behind there, and you see the blue arrow begins to rise, because the final point to overcome is the fear of death. And the fear of death is basically, this is the heart point, and it's considered the fire element. So it's the passion of the fire of love. And as you always see these Renaissance paintings about Jesus, and his heart is literally on fire. And now I've seen some with Mary even having her heart on fire. And eventually the artists will paint the Magdalene with her heart on fire. So anyway, it'll be it'll be a great day, because the artists are starting to change, and they're now starting to paint the paintings that tell the stories that we want to have told, that haven't been told before, because they've been basically suppressed. So once we reach the final point on the base level, which is the level of matter, the level of 3D, the material world, then it's an internal process of going in through the heart, and then we begin the steps of going up through the 7 layers to the top. So now this is called going within the 4 climates, and it starts with the heart. And there's 7 chakra openings that we have within ourselves that then begin to open up, and as we rise. But all of the ascensions, and in order to begin any movement up after we've detached from matter, comes with a vision. And we've spent a lot of time in the last 2 classes talking about the difference between vision means seeing with our body's eyes, which typically people think, oh, when I have vision, I can see with my eyes. But the problem with the eyes is that we see only the past. And instead, this is the vision of the third eye. This is the vision that we see from the gnosis, the divine mind of knowing. And it's led by the heart, because now they know, the scientists have even discovered that the heart has more neuron brain receptors. So it has the capacity to work and act like a brain, in the sense of the intelligence and the wisdom. But of course, the heart-based wisdom is the wisdom that really changes everything. It brings us the peace and the love that we want to experience in our world. So this ascension process is going from our human self through the visioning process, to be able to hold, not be distracted by look over here and look over there and all of this, to the divine, which is what we already are, which is the good news, because we're already divine. There's nothing else can happen but us discovering our divine nature. It's just, are you going to discover it now? Are you going to allow it now? Are you going to open to it now? Or are you going to take another lifetime, or many lifetimes? People say that we've had lots of lifetimes, so we'll see. But we're starting to get revealed to us this higher consciousness material. And had I been taught this as a little child, God knows, where I would be today, instead of my just learning it now. So as a retired person, it's a different thing. So I believe I already showed you the crop circle, because I was informed or told that there were crop circles that had been forming on Magdalene's feast day. And this crop circle has become more and more significant as I delved into the ascension material. basically because what does it show? It shows chakra centers open, fully open. So on the left-hand side, my left, is the areas of a corresponding human level of the chakra center. And then on the other side, I guess I'm backwards on this thing. I'm pointing this way. I guess I should be pointing that way. On this side, it's the level of the divine side of ourselves. And what we learned last time was that it wasn't that Magdalene had 7 demonic forces and she was mentally ill. It was that she was going through the process of awakening that we're all going through. And the process of awakening is awakening our human self, our human conditioned, separated self. I'm the other, you're other than me, and all the judgments and everything. We're beginning to open to a greater truth, and it's a truth of who we really are. And so we open up to this truth, and as we do, we come into a greater knowing, a gnosis of what is authentically true about who we are, and that we are the love of God. And we are one with God in that spirit. And of course, Magdalene was the great demonstration, and this was the tremendous missed opportunity humanity had because her books were buried and the material was suppressed, that we could have been really much further along in understanding how to shift from our human self, which has its limitations, its fears, and its conditioning, to our divine self, which would be singing and dancing and having a lot more fun, and joy in life, and truly experiencing life as heaven on earth. So the artists have had, the intuitive experience of this. And here's a picture that is really important to see. You can see that Magdalene oftentimes is painted reading a book, which showed that she had a level of knowledge that was beyond the time, because in these days, a lot of the public, or the general public, was not in a place or to read books and whatnot. But in this case, the book is closed. And what is she focused on? She's got her hand on the mind of Christ. She's on the what we call the Christos, the divine self. And she is completely connected to the divine self. And she is focused on her divine self. So you see, she also has a halo at the top. The book is closed, and she's really becoming one with the Christ. In other words, she's understanding the mirroring of her mind and the Christ mind as being the same, and connecting at that level, and therefore getting the knowledge and the gnosis of understanding of the Christ mind. So back to our little model description here. The 7 chakras of that go through our system, go through our bodies, starts with what is called the blue rose. And the blue rose is not of this world, right? So that's what's of this world is the earth, water, air, and fire, right? But not the blue rose. You don't find the blue rose growing. But it was really interesting because in some of the cathedrals, the stained glass windows, the blue rose represents the highest frequency of love. And the blue rose exists in the subtle energies of that which is true blue, because she is true blue. And all of a sudden, I started to notice that, especially paintings that were oftentimes with the resurrected Christ, she was now in blue. And of course, this is the blue rose window, the north window in Notre Dame. And the beauty of this window is that in order to see the blue rose, you have to look to the heavens because that's where it is. So this is a clue about the ascension process. We leave the entrapments of the 3D world and we start to move into the 5D realm, the etheric level of noticing the heavens, noticing that which is heavenly, the blue rose, the beauty, the frequency, and then we can begin our process of rising from that elevated state. So we have to keep our focus and our attention on a higher thought, on things that are of higher frequencies. So the origins of the word true blue, which I thought was really a fun story, is that the true blue is supposed to derive from a blue cloth that was made at Coventry, England in the late Middle Ages. The town's dyers had a reputation for producing material that wouldn't fade with washing. That is, it remained fast and it remained true blue. So that was really fun way to be able to communicate to people. See, Jesus has got his hand over her crown chakra, and Magdalene is now in blue. And the saying is, thy faith made thee whole, because she was willing until she actually had a full embodied experience of a full awakening. She was willing to have the faith to do the work. So you'll see what the work is that she did. And she tries to explain it to Peter in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, what the soul's journey is. And he's like, what? He's not getting it. But she got it. So one of the critical points of operation about it is that higher thoughts require a more fluid state of mind. They become a wave, and the intention is to elevate yourself and be in a flow. So when we get rigid and dogmatic, which was why, that's how the Protestants came about, right? Because the Catholics were too rigid and dogmatic, and the Protestants decided to have their own dogma. And so they became rigid and dogmatic about their dogma. And now we have, even a higher level of dogma happening. It's like but they are not liking the dogma of the other. So but the point is, and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene makes it clear, have no rules. He says, don't make any more rules. You don't need any more rules. It's a very simple thing. It's the process of loving and being loving and kind and compassionate. And then now the scientists have discovered that the relationship between a particle and wave, and there's a whole deeper section which I go into in some of my classes about quantum physics, that was outlined in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, that was written almost 2,000 years ago. What would it be, like 1,800 years ago or 1,900 years ago? Anyway, it's like there it was. Quantum physics was known. Why? Because it's a known at the level of the gnosis. And for those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, and who have reached a state of open-mindedness, that knowledge is then accessible and available to them. So this is one thing that's really important, is to become more fluid. And the Course in Miracles started out with the goal in mind of helping us not be so rigid and so fear-based and fear-driven, and understand that we could let go. And Gerald Dempolsky, psychiatrist, wrote a famous book called Love is Letting Go of Fear. That was a bestseller and everything. And this is what's we've had to learn. And now there's a Course of Love, and the Course of Love, courseoflove.com, is basically saying that Jesus is channeling that at the same time that he's channeling the gospel of, the Course in Miracles. And in the Course of Love, Jesus says, really, it's my mother. My mother was the one who taught me how to be my Christed self, because he said she was the master. She was the one who knew how to elevate me and how to teach me how to allow my elevated state of consciousness to become wholehearted and allow my higher self to come in full bodied and be present in my full body. And so that was his journey. And so the Course of Love that now documents, and he says this becomes doable, because we realize that the above the line where we are all one is hard to attain, but we can recognize that the ego fear-based world that we're living in is insane. I mean, there are so many absolutely insane things happening right now in this world. Thousands and thousands of children being slaughtered and killed. It's like, give me a break. This is awful. Whereas if we were operating from the other side of a more sane world with wisdom, the wisdom of love, the wisdom of Sophia, the Holy Spirit, which is also a feminine aspect, then things would be a lot saner, because we would be making decisions that are based on justice, that are based on mercy, that are based on compassion. And we are going to get there, because we cannot not be what we are, since we are this one life and this one love. So it's just whether we're going to do it now or we're going to go through a lot of hell before we get there. So hopefully more and more people are going to go, no, I think I'll choose the saner way. Certainly is a lot more fun. A lot more singing and dancing happens. So anyway, but it requires us be willing to vision. We need to vision with our hearts. And so we enter the heart's flaming passion of love. And this is where we're going into within our own bodies, which have these subtle energies that they're called the energy centers of the chakra, which have been known about for thousands of years by other cultures, but not so much practiced in the US. And what the Gospel of Mary Magdalene is saying is that it's the breath. It's the breath of God. It's when you take a deep breath, open up and take a deep breath. So as we breathe in and just let go, and we fill ourselves with the fire, the passion for life. So we have this fabulous opportunity here, and we get to live life and have all these amazing experiences. It's so funny, when my mother passed away, I had a dream that she came to me, which my psychic teacher used to say that when somebody comes to you in a dream who's passed on, it is really them. So, and she says to me, where do I go eat? I said, oh, Mom, you don't get to eat anymore. You don't get to have a lot of experiences like that anymore, which is part of the delight and the amazing thing about life. I said, but I told her where to go, because obviously she was still on the earth plane. She hadn't really ascended yet. Because some of us don't get the work. And so when we pass away, I had a near-death experience, and when I popped out of my body, I didn't know that there was anything wrong. And in other words, I wasn't afraid. It was like my body was laying on the ground. And I thought to myself, wow, this is really amazing. Because I wasn't afraid, because I felt whole. In other words, nothing was missing. I was in a wholehearted state. And it just seemed very inconsequential that my body I could see my body on the ground, but it was like, so what? It was like an old coat that was laying down there. I didn't need it anymore. But I saw that I couldn't communicate with my friends who were panicking and running around on me. So I popped back into my body. Anyway, I'll go more into my story later. But So the breathing into the heart helps us to detach from matter, because when we take a deep breath in and we relax and we let go, we understand that all is well. And it's a great mantra. Anytime I have something that is like, false evidence appearing real, I start chanting, all is well. Taking a deep breath and relaxing it, all is well. And it is amazing how things will be resolved in a positive way, because the universe is love, and it's here to be of service to you in a loving and kind and gentle way, not in a mean and destructive way. That's a human condition. So, what is it that she did that was so outstanding and so amazing that has made her probably the most powerful woman next to her mother-in-law, as some would say, Mother Mary? Is she focused on the vision of God. She listened to what Jesus was talking about. She did the work of it, and she got to that place. She reached that place, and we talked about it in the last class about the visioning, that she understood. She saw him in a vision. She went into that gamma brainwave state. If you haven't seen my Dr. Joe Dispenza Meet Mary Magdalene talk, you'll have to watch that one, because in that, she reaches the gamma brainwave state where she's open-minded, completely full, and achieves that state of oneness, where she realizes that she's one with God. So this gnosis is the divine mind of the heart. And to begin the ascension, you have to articulate what your vision is. For the treasure lies in the heart, according to the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And that's why that Little Mermaid movie was so great, because the sunken treasure, right? The ship, the mermaid went down to find, feeling half human, and then she becomes fully human is her goal in her journey, right? So going back to this crop circle, we are opening to ascension and can begin with the detachment of matter with the breath, which is the base chakra. And you must have a vision of your true nature to rise and open. So the first base chakra, the root chakra, when we're in the human side of it, we're in a sense of survival. I have to get mine, and survival is very scary, and it's based on lack and fear. But when we move over to the open part, where we're on the divine side, the root chakra it's an abundant level. And then as we move up, why is it abundant? Because we're in sacred union, which is divine. And what does that mean? That means that we're being empowered by the will and the love of God. And then that means that we're doing everything with love. And that means that we can speak the truth, that we are love, and we can share and extend that love and bless people with our love. And then we can get into the third eye, which is the Sophic wisdom, because when you're sharing and extending love, and your motive operation is love based, then what you're going to do will be wise. And then you become so open-minded that you become fully illuminated, right? And this is the state of enlightenment, which means to be full of light, which means to be full of love. It's not like some wild esoteric thing. We have moments of it all the time, and it's always available to us because it is us. We already are it, and we just are asleep to it, or we have woundings and difficulties that block us from it. So that's what the detachment part is detaching from and letting go of everything that's in the way. So the gnosis is the divine mind, the heart, and to begin the ascension, you hold the vision of your true nature. This is an aspect that lies in the heart. So whatever level, so if you're in lack, you would want to hold a vision of abundance. Um, and if you're feeling disempowered, then you want to hold a vision for empowerment. So what are there, 7 fruits of the spirit? It's like you you can take anything that is of the fruit of the spirit and you can start there, whichever one resonates with you or whatever you feel is your primary um, condition that you would like to be healed from or release or let go or open your heart to the aspect that is divine. Um, so that's where you do it. But in order to have the willingness to even begin that journey, you have to be in your heart. You have to make the journey from your head to your heart. And then in your heart, that's where you now have opened up yourself to, okay, let's take this one at a time and receive the healing and receive the love and move up the ladder. So your body is a garment. The body is made up of part of the illusion of the idea of the separated self. So in other words, you looking at me and you see I'm alive. And if I was not alive, oh, well, first off, it'd be very hard to be sitting up. But let's say that somebody propped me up in a chair, you would still recognize that I was not alive because there's no life in my body. And this life is the exact same life that you are. It's the same energy. That's why we're one in that life. And the way that we become alive is through the breath. Without the breath of God, there is no life. So it's a critical piece of it. I mean, it's the only way we stay alive in this body. But the purpose to be in the body is not just to have life fill the body, it's to have heaven fill the body. And so I oftentimes tell the story about when I was asking Jesus in a prayer and a meditation, what is this, you know, thing about you have to seek him and find him. Even in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, she says, seek him and find him, and those who seek him and find him will know the kingdom of God. And I go, what is up with the him thing, And then I found out it's actually, I heard in the meditation, Jesus was telling me it's H period, I period, M period. H is for heaven, I is for in, and M is for me. So it's heaven in me. And what are all the aspects of heaven? Heaven is when you're open-minded, you're full of wisdom, you're speaking truth to power, you're filled with love. You feel empowered to do and say and go and be whatever it is that you want to manifest in the world. And you are in sacred union, for you feel harmonious and connected. You're not feeling separate and apart and less than. And you're feeling abundant. So this is all a really great thing. This was all the work that she did. So really amazing. So now that we've gotten to the inside, remember we worked the outside perimeter and we got to a place where we overcame all the difficulties of being earthbound. Now we've understood we have to go within and we have to heal all the chakra centers within ourselves. So this feels like a repeat because it's still earth, water, air, fire, and etc. But this is where the real transformation happens. So we must overcome the 7 levels of wrath, again, at the subtle energy levels. The first is darkness, which is the earth. Second is desire, which is water. Third is ignorance, which is air, elements of air. The fourth is fear of death, which is the fire. The fifth is the power of the flesh. The sixth is foolishness, which is being impure or guileful. And it's a kind of a false wisdom. And then the seventh level is what they call self-righteous materialism. So we've made these transitions going around, and now we've taken a breath in. It helps us to detach from matter. And we're very fortunate, at least I didn't even know I had this. I had this book on my shelf, my bookshelf. And, there's so many pages from the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the first 6 pages and pages 11 through 14 that are missing. And I was asking the question, oh boy, it would be nice to know what was on those other pages, right? And then sure enough, I saw this book on my bookshelf. I didn't even remember buying it, but I pulled it off the shelf and I opened it up, and there was the full, complete channeled version. And I thought, well, let's take a look at it. Be open-minded, right? There are a lot of people that take issue with channeled writings, but Course in Miracles is a channeled work. Course of Love is a channeled work. So, but anyway, let's take a look at it and see if it makes sense, because it may not resonate. And so let's find out. So in the Secret Teachings of Mary Magdalene on page 11, it says, all aspects of life, and this is referring to the page 11 that's missing in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, all aspects of life have to be overcome. It is true that everything in our physical structure is composed and will decompose, but we can overcome this process. Now, in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, if you read it, I mean, it's only 18 pages long, right? You'll see where it talks about the composing and the decomposing of matter. So he does address this as he's trying to teach Mary Magdalene. So it is true that everything in our physical structure is composed and will decompose, but we can overcome this. That relates, that resonates. So once in the body, we embody our true nature. We open and clear that which is in the way. So we release and we let go. We've let go of our earthbound nature, and we're now rising internally in a meditative state to achieve a higher state of consciousness where we're allowing ourselves to rise past the illusory nature of matter and move out of the 3D realm into the 5D realm. So as we begin to make this journey up, we get more and more open and aware. So the human side of this condition that we have to transmute, or is, as we learned in the Greek, original Greek text that was written, is the process of daemon. It's not that she was filled with demon, but it's the process of moving into a supernatural state. And Dr. Joe Dispenza even calls his work the supernatural. He has one of his books is titled The Supernatural Human. Because it feels like it's boundless. It's without the human condition, which is restrictive and depressing and dark and cravings that won't leave you alone and own your life, and you're ignorant to how to get free, and you're in a fear of death. You don't want to die, and you're afraid of dying, and which I'm very grateful for my near-death experience, because I clearly was shown that there's nothing to fear. In fact, I went to some of the international, what is it? The International Studies of Near-Death Experiences, IONS, and I met a woman who had a near-death experience, and she wrote a book called The Fun of Dying. And I would have to concur with her, because it is fun to know that there's nothing to be afraid of. And as soon as I popped out of my body, there was no pain. It was glorious. It was wonderful. I was like, yeah, I like this. This is good. So anyway, you're breaking yourself free from the human conditions by letting go of the fear and moving over to the divine aspect and opening and allowing it to manifest because it's already there. It's already in us as us. Our natural state of abundance is already a part of us. Like the Bible says, the lilies toil not, right? They're not worried about where what they need to sustain life is going to come from. So anyway, so the breath, the smell of a rose helps us to ascend and overcome our resistance. And I once did with a group that I was teaching the Gospel of Mary Magdalene series with. I brought roses and we all smelled the roses as we actually did a little ritualized version of this ascension process. And the rose is so beautiful, but the scent of the rose is like one of the highest frequencies. And it's like when you smell a really sweet rose from a garden, a fresh rose, oh my God, it just opens your heart right away. But interestingly enough, the commercial selling of roses now have no scent. They have completely DNA removed the scent of rose. So you have to grow roses in your garden. This is essential for priestesses or container rose gardens. It's something. The only place Good Earth sells roses that still have a scent because they sell organic roses and that are you can still get, but you have to look for it. You have to search for it to find it. So here's the fully awakened chakras. When all chakras are open, of course, this is going way back to, I guess, the Sanskrit version with the symbols and the colors and whatnot. And the practice of meditation is critical in the opening of the chakra centers and letting the energy of the Kundalini energy rise within us. And this energy, we talked a little bit about that with the Mayan calendar crop circles that I was sharing about in the last class, that I had a wonderful story about a young fellow who I was taking a class with, and he was like such an irritating person. And he lived in the house that I lived in, where there was a whole group of us that lived together. And he just bugged the hell out of me. And so one day in the meditation class that we were in together, they said, look into the left eye of the person in front of you. It's like the window of the soul, right? And it's just a 1 minute little exercise. I thought, well, I can do it for 1 minute. So as I'm sitting there looking into his eye, looking into the window of his soul of his eye, suddenly I feel this energy coming up from the base of my spine that just shot out. And all of a sudden, everything that was in the way of all my judgments of him and all of that was just completely burned. And I saw this lovely divine soul before me. And then he continued to live at the house for another few months after that. And I kept thinking, like, wow, what happened? Because no matter where we were interacting or doing, there was never a time when I saw the part that I was so critical of him. It was completely burned out of me. So this is part of the answer to the healing that comes as we purify ourselves with this fire of this Kundalini energy, which helps us to heal and brings us into the right scene. It shifts us from the left side of my egoic mind that was so judgmental of him to the right side where I was full of wisdom and seeing this person as a divine child of God. So anyway, one of the things that we've now discovered through the gospel, and this is why I'm so excited about bringing this work forward, is she did it. She did it. And we really missed out because we didn't get the quality and depth of understanding of not only that she did it, but where do you hear her being spoken of as the enlightened one, as the Buddha Christed nature that she was? But it's quite obvious from her stories in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Not only did it, but she became the leader that brought forth with grace and love and encouraged the disciples to go out. We wouldn't even have Christianity, although it's been so tweaked in the wrong direction with all this hate mongering. It's really sad. We need another Magdalene to rise. Maybe it's you, or me. Who knows? I'm trying to do my part. But really, I think we have to take another look at what it is that she did, because she embodied the Christ consciousness. She understood that she was one with God. She held the vision of her true nature. She became wholehearted and open-hearted. And that's why she's so beloved. That's why she won't go away. Why more and more people are finding her. And I have some friends that are like so irritated, like, oh my God, she died over 2,000 years ago. Why are you still following her? I said, because we are just beginning to understand about her and what she did. And I know that, but they don't necessarily know that. So I'm trying to encourage them. Yeah, you might want to, but they might not be ready for it. Peter certainly wasn't ready. So back in this wonderful book, she goes on in the next page and she says, all that is composed is of the elements. Of course, the elements are the earth, water, air, and fire. And our attachment is to this structure. In other words, we live in this egoic world of the separated self, and we are attached. We're attached to our separate bank account. We're attached to our separate beds, our separate lives, our separate homes, our separate cultures, our separate dogma. We are attached, and we have to be willing to let some of this go and be open-minded. So we disassociate your soul from matter, composing of the separated self. See, you're looking at this physical body here. This is matter, but really when you really drill down to the molecules and the atoms and the electrons, and in my quantum physics class I talk about that, the space between the electrons within one atom is 13 and a half football fields wide. But when we understand the consciousness of spaciousness, and we become like that slide that was on fluid and whole and not so rigid and dogmatic, but we actually open up and become a little more fluid, then in that case, we are now at a place where once the two are apart, the ascent can begin, because we've opened up and let some energy come in, and the energy flows. When it's blocked, it can't flow, right? So when I was blocking the energy in my chakras of this man that I was thoroughly convinced myself that he was such a SOB, I was blocked. I could not see his divine nature. And this is why it was so important to open up, become wholehearted. But I had to go through an awakening process. I had to meditate. I had to tap into the fluidity of the energies and allow myself to become a little more fluid, so I could at least open my eyes to that maybe there's another way. Maybe there's another possibility. Maybe he's a wounded child, and his wounding has caused him to act inappropriately. And so I could have some compassion, and on and on and on, until I could see him more as divine. So, God bless the Renaissance painters who painted all these extraordinary Magdalene paintings, because they gave us the clues. They being deep in their compassion, deep in their passion for Magdalene. They painted her. So here she is, she's on the earth. You can see all the elements. There's the water off in the distance. There's the sky, the air. You can see, oh, what is it? So she's got the element of the earth, the cave around her. And but what is she focused on? She's focused on the heavens, and she's got her mind, her hand connected to the crown chakra of the Christ mind. So and the book behind her, you see, is open. So she's open to the knowledge of the Christ mind coming into her, and she's in this beautiful meditative state. So she's in the world, but she's not of it. And so this is the joy of what begins to happen. We get to move into a state of embodied higher self, embodied consciousness of the Christos Sophia, of the wisdom of God and the love. And this is where we begin what they call in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene the fourth climate, where we're going to deal with the subtle energies that are within us. And we're going to take each one of them and go up through them and discuss about the processes that happen with each one. So the thing about the climates too is really interesting because I got my master's degree in comparative religions and studied a lot of them because I was really interested in especially some of the Eastern religions and their influence that they had on the transformational psychology that was developing in the 70s. And so that's what I did. But the only place that I ever found in all my readings, when I didn't read everything, but in a lot of my readings, I never found the reference to the idea of climates. And it's a great metaphor, just like the pyramid is a great metaphor for the ascension model. And the climates are sort of like when you go up to a mountaintop, and if there's a big stormy cloud hovering around a mountaintop, as you're looking at the clouds, they look menacing and they're raining and stormy and whatnot. But there comes a point where you actually get above the clouds and you break free. And that's the liberated place where you're at the top of the mountaintop. And so this is the beauty of A Course of Love, because they say, if the Course of Love says it is a mountaintop experience. So when you go through a 40-day training in the Course of Love, but you start out at the mountaintop. You start out with the open-hearted, wholehearted knowing of your higher self that all is well, and you're completely open and expanded. And then you go through the 40 days. So that's an interesting, I loved that one when I ever came across it. And then every day for 40 days, you do what each of the days talks about, try to practice that and hold that in your consciousness as you go through your day. So after detaching from the outer with the wisdom of the heart, she overcame the 7 levels of wrath. And again, at the subtle energy levels embodied within, she begins the inner journey. So let's stop for a minute and just talk about the 7 levels of wrath. What is the word wrath? The dictionary surprisingly says that it's extreme anger, but it's chiefly used for humorous or rhetorical effect. And that reminded me of what the Course in Miracles says, that into eternity where all is one, crept a tiny mad idea at which the Son of God remembered not to laugh. So when we split off and decided to create a separated self, which was a thought or an idea that we could be separate, and when we did that, it was a mad idea. It was this tiny mad idea that crept into our minds collectively that we could be separate from God, which is impossible. We can't be separate. It's kind of like when a wave separates out and becomes a wave, even the very tip of the wave, which might be a little water droplet, it's still part of the ocean. It's always connected to the ocean. Every aspect of the wave is water from the ocean. And when the wave recedes back into the ocean, it recedes back into the oneness. So now waves can be all different sizes, all different strengths. Some of us in our lives have created waves of tsunamis, and we're crashing and burning and destroying things and whatnot. And others of us who have some wisdom and discernment have created little ripples, and we play at the feet of children on the beach on a beautiful day at the beach having fun. So that's our choice, which one we're going to do. And But a wave is a wave is a wave, no matter what it is, a tsunami wave or a little ripple at the seashore. So this humor, the idea of the humor was really what I was spinning off of. So what it takes to wake up, we have to feel, right? So what you really feel, and this person who made this cartoon say, a swift kick in the butt, it'll only cost you $1, right? And then this one I love too, right? Which was, tell me your innermost feelings to somebody who's so guarded, so blocked off, armored. And we've all met people like that. There's like no way are they going to love. They've got themselves all walled off. And that's why it was so sad when America wanted to build a wall. It's like that's what Berlin Wall was all about. They built a wall. And that's another great video to watch too that I did about how the Berlin Wall came down, because people don't know the real story behind the wall, the how the wall came down, but it actually came down through prayer and meditation. So the ascension steps to awakening in the fourth climate. The first four are the same: darkness, earth, desire, water, ignorance, air, and fear of death and fire. Then the next 7 levels we must overcome is the power of the flesh, foolishness. That means wisdom that's false wisdom is not really, it's kind of like being, being intellectual or something, and thinking that it's only what the knowledge you have or how many degrees you have that makes you wise. And then the self-righteous materialism is like the accumulation of wealth. And there's a whole, what is it, the Calvinism group? They were the ones that felt that God said if somebody's rich, that's because God is benefiting them with their wealth, and so they're wise, and so they become self-righteous in their materialism, and everybody flocks to them because they want their money. But it's a very self-righteous thing with the rich. We see that all the time: arrogance and complete lack of compassion and empathy for people who are poor and suffering. So the passion level, passion of desire, very connected to the earth. And then we overcome each level by adopting her courage. So she had the courage, when all the disciples were fleeing the cross, she stayed along with Mother Mary. And Joseph of Arimathea, I think, was also there. But it was like her courage and her conviction, because she was not going to leave her beloved. Her attention and focus was on that love. So the 7 manifestation, called the 7 powers of breath, now with a vision, she begins to rise and become whole. The subtle bodies is a repeat of the process, but it's a repeat of the process by going within. Earth, water, air, and fire is that which is on the outside. And the subtle bodies is the repeat going within that's transforming the waking. Well, I think you got that now. And of course, here's how the artist in the George Latour painting showed it. He showed that when she had achieved this, as within, as without, solid one consciousness, you see that the mirror reflects the inner world and the outer world. The outer world of the candle in front of the mirror, and the mirror is got the fleur de lis, which is royalty. So it means achieving the highest. It's a gold gilded mirror of fleur de lis. So it's beautiful because it's supposed to be heaven on earth while we are on earth in our bodies as one united, the one life, right? We're all alive with the same life, and there's no difference in our life, right? So thank you, Daniel Holman, for these great paintings. AwakenedVisions.com. So the gnosis is the divine mind of the heart, and to begin ascension, we enter the heart. What is your vision? Treasure lies in the heart. So you must hold on to your vision. And she used the Christ mind. She stayed illuminated in that awareness. So as we go up the chakra things, we see each one, our hearts being open, we're becoming empowered. We keep breathing, opening and allowing, and all is provided. Vision of abundance. The artist painted her blue again with looking like a gold alabaster jar, very rich. And moving through in the vision, she enters the bridal chamber, which is the sacred union, the heteroskamos. So in this step 2 of the heteroskamos vision, we had a ritual that we did up in Tiburon, and I heard in a vision I received to create a ritual of the bridal chamber. Now, I had no real knowledge or experience of the bridal chamber, and so I invited my friend Priestess Diana Kelly to come, and she said yes, she would do it. And then she went into meditation, and she found out that she was going to be told a special meditation to do in the bridal chamber, but she didn't know what it was. So the night before the ritual, we still didn't know what the ritual was going to include, what the experience was going to be as people entered. And we had set up this whole bridal chamber thing. And she heard it's the Ampula blessing. And we thought, Ampula blessing, what is that? She Googled it. It was the blessing that was done originally, particularly with many of the kings of France, because back in the day, they believed that a king became king because of their divine connection, that they were divine. They were the closest connected to God. And so she actually just got back a few months ago from France, where she went to these cathedrals where the Ampula blessings were given to the kings, and she was able to sit, and she had a very incredible, powerful meditation around the experience of having the crown chakra open and receiving the crown, because she is the embodiment of the Holy Sophia, which is what they say Magdalene is the embodiment of the Holy Sophia. So at the end of doing all these blessings of Ampula, the photographer took the picture of her, and afterwards we saw this blue light. And you remember the significance of the true blue was right over her heart. So it was really interesting because we were tripping out on where did this blue light come from, because there wasn't anything above that was a blue light. So it was a kind of amazing day. But that's kind of like how the magic of it all is. It's not a dead thing, it's living, and there's all kinds of like amazing mystical things that happen to people as they open their hearts and listen with um, the ears of the heart, not with their physical ears, and see with their the eyes of through visioning process instead of the body's eyes, which is always judging and evaluating, is this okay, is this not okay. Anyway, Diana and I work a lot together. What she did to unify as one within and with her beloved within. Her process, Magdalene's process, and the modeling that she gives us, which is so fabulous. She's all in. There's no holding back. There's no resistance. There's no, she loves, and she is connected to the love of who she is. And so she's sharing and extending that love. And these artists are really capturing the dedication and focus. It's kind of like, I mean, the closest thing that we really have is puppy love. When a puppy comes up and the puppy is just so happy to see you, it just loves you so much. It's just like unbelievable, right? This is but this is a deeper, even wiser love, because you can see her determination and dedication to extend the love that's in her to him, and she's not holding back in any way, shape, or form. So this is a great painting of her washing his feet with her hair, and she anoints the head and the feet, and she's just so into loving him. She's just extending love. She's not distracted by all the things that are going on in the room and what's happening. She is just beside herself with love. And so you can see that above the line, above the table, all of the disciples and everything, everybody's either looking for answers, like, give us an answer, master, tell us, but they're not really listening. Because as we learned before, it's like the listening that's required is not the listening with judgment, it's the listening with the heart. They're trying, and he's trying to explain. That's why he tells a lot of stories. Or they're just so busy doing things like Martha in the background, getting the meals ready for the men. And she's all mad because Mary's not helping her. And there's a lot of men to feed, so. And then thank God for Sue Ellen Parkinson. She gave me permission to use this painting that she just did, because when I saw her last Easter, I asked her, I said, we need paintings of Mary Magdalene anointing his head, because they're very few. Most of the paintings are in the anointing of the feet. And the Bible says that he was anointed from the head to the feet, and the scent filled the room. So what is the anointing process? The anointing, she's anointing him to become the Messiah. And the word Messiah means anointed one. But who's doing the anointing? She's doing the anointing, right? She's the one that's anointing him. And so it's her that is the one who has the embodied higher self and the capacity, because she can see the truth of who she is. She's now able to join with him the Christos and the Sophia Christos, the Christos Sophia. They join as one together. So there's a really great thing. You see the white egg on the left and the red egg on the right, because when she was charged by him to go out and explain that he had resurrected, she held up an egg when they wouldn't believe her, and the egg turned red in her hand. So you can see Martha's way off in the background, and Lazarus, her brother, is in the back. But she is totally dedicated to him. And you see the moon up above. That's why we have the Magdalene moonrise service where we tell the stories, because in this scene, the disciples are flipping out about why did she break open this expensive jar of spikenard. Nobody bothers to ask, how did she have so much money that she could buy an expensive jar? That's a whole nother story. But turns out she's a wealthy woman. Turns out she's actually a successful businesswoman. And the legends have it that she employed over 100 widowed women to create libations and tinctures, and that Elizabeth Kelly tells, the woman who ordained me. And she went to her home and she met with the people who had, for generations upon generations, had been caring for the monks that oversee her home in Mary Magdalene in Magdala in Magdala in Israel, on the Sea of Galilee. And so, and then of course he says, no, she's doing the right thing. Let her be. She's doing the right thing, right? And so she anoints him from the head to the feet. But I went and looked up, what is spikenard? That was supposedly what was used. And turns out it's an herbal ointment that is considered to be a sedative. And he says to the disciples, she is preparing me for my death. So she's doing the right thing. And there will be a time when she will be remembered and discussed for what she has done. So you see, he's going to need a sedative, don't you think? If he's going to get nailed to the cross in a few days, it might be helpful to be infused with the energetic infusion of a sedative. So, anyway, there's more to that story. I could go on and on forever. But she knew the beloved. But she knew the beloved was within her. That's why she was so free to give this love, because she understood that when you pour out love and you're connected to the source of love, it's a never-ending source. It does not run out. It's abundant, it's flowing. And so she had that wisdom of knowing that there was no reason to hold back. So she was able to anoint him the Christos and make him the Messiah because of her wisdom and her elevated state of consciousness. So now as we continue the journey up, the third is ignorance or air, which is vision. Vision, that you would be visioning the empowered state, which is what is God's will. So if you're on the human side, you'd be in ignorance. And if you would mean disempowered because you don't have the right knowledge, you don't have the gnosis, you don't have the true knowledge that you are one with God, the knowledge that makes you safe in all conditions, because love is what really affords us the safety that we need to walk the earth, heaven on earth. And when you switch over to the divine side, you're empowered with the will of God. So this is Dr. Margaret Ruglioso, who is a priestess, has a mystery school of priestesses, and she was involved in the sacred ceremonies that we did on the Magdalene Moonrise Easter services that we do every year on Easter evening. And she has this wonderful quote that I love, because we must stop the ignorance now. She says, to understand how much women have been disempowered, we need to understand how much the dismissal of the sacred feminine has affected us. See, most of us are oblivious, especially the men, what it cost us So when my friends say to me, like, oh, why are you into the Magdalene thing? She's dead for over 2,000 years. Why does it matter anyway now? Because they dismissing it of the sacred feminine because they don't realize how much that dismissal has cost us. We just lost the Equal Rights Amendment. What is the Equal Rights? It's an amendment that means that if a woman does equal work for equal pay, she gets paid the same for the same hours for the same work. That's a no-brainer, right? Well, it's cost us. And so many women struggle with low self-esteem and depression, and well, it goes on and on and on. So it's really important. That's why this work is, and this is a real, this Botticelli, uh, it's called the Fox Angel. You see the angels holding the fox, and there's Magdalene at the bottom of the crucifixion, the cross. And the angel warns, beware of the fox. The church lies. Fox News lies. This is the wise and crafty fox, and they have deceived so many people. And that's part of why the patriarchy of the church doesn't want Mary Magdalene to come in front and center, except for the fact that Jesus' brilliance and his genius was that he appeared to her. And because he appeared to her at the time of the resurrection, they couldn't write her out. So, and of course, now the consciousness is rising. And so hopefully we're going to see a healing on this. And people will start turning towards accepting her and acknowledging her as an equal partner with Jesus. But Peter was unwilling to accept her elevated status, hard as Jesus tried. He says in the Gospel of Mary, must we change our customs and listen to a woman? Yes, Peter, you must change your custom and listen to a woman. He was beside himself that Jesus wanted Mary Magdalene to be in the inner circle, and he had all the women involved. So this overcoming of fear and cravings and ignorance moves into a state of love, open-mindedness, which is the gnosis of the truth of who we are. And she slays the ignorance because her mind is filled with the light of God, the light of love, the gnosis, the truth of she has allowed herself to have the vision. She did the inner work. She received the meditation, got into right alignment on the mind of God. And so the vision of the empowered Magdalene, she now goes forth and teaches the disciples. They were all afraid. But unfortunately, 2,000 years later, we're still not teaching the real truth. And thank God for the artists now that are coming forward and they're painting Magdalene in new light. It's much more honoring and revering of who she is. Because I certainly didn't grow up with this image of the Magdalene. I got the image of the Magdalene groveling on the ground, and lucky if she was mentioned twice a year, Christmas and Easter, or even barely that. So the fourth fear is death. And the vision that we hold is love and open-heartedness, because there really is no death. It's hard to explain because having had a near-death experience, I do understand that, and I'm very grateful for that experience because it really gave me the opportunity to know that I am whole. I am complete, and there is no lack in my being as I am sourced from the source, the life that I am, the love that I give and extend out to people and radiate throughout my whole being, cannot die. And when I was looking at my body on the ground, I was recognizing like, wow, this is so cool because I'm not afraid. I don't care. It was like looking at an old coat. Didn't matter. So the heart is purified, burns away the fear of death. So what does that do? That leaves you in a divine state of wholeheartedness. Now you can begin to walk forward, right? You're empowered, you're connected, you're living an abundant life. She overcame that fear. You know, she is got the angels guiding her, and she's connected to source, and she's got her this right here is the skull, so she's like focused on the Christ mind that she's now one with, and she's also shown, you know, here in this particular painting, she's in blue reading, and you see the whole of how to get out of this darkened earth condition. We are currently in the process of trying to create the new earth. And so these energies of her are helping to bring, and these teachings are helping to bring balance and harmony and healing back to us so that we can find our way. Here she is in the cave reading with the skull, symbolizing her ability to know how to transcend death and see the opening. She knows how to lead us out. So this is the best kind of teaching, right? It's the modeling, the living demonstration that comes from. And thank God we have the artists who painted her in so many ways to help us to see and to understand. And this is why she won't go away. This is why she's so powerful. Because she understood the gnosis, that she was a full enlightened embodied soul. So now we're on the fifth level, right? Of the subtle energies. But she was also fully human. So when he died on the cross, she was filled with extreme grief. She was fully human in her feelings and in touch. But she had the wisdom within her, and she had the vision within her. So this expression from her throat chakra that that was sort of the power of the flesh was transferred to the divine so that she was able to speak truth. She was able to be filled with grace. And so she tells Peter the truth. And there's a wonderful section in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene where Peter's like, what? This story you've just told us about these levels and the climates and everything. He's like, he says, nah, he never said that. He says, I don't get, they were like very upset about it. Andrew, I think it was, that was very upset about it. Anyway, they weren't having it. And Peter storms out. And she's like, my brother. She says, I love you. It's like, what are you talking about? You think I would lie? I would just make all this stuff up? Um, anyway, that's for another class. We can go more into what she actually said. In fact, I do want to do it because I think she demonstrates how to talk to people when they're in arrogant attitude, because she was able to talk, maintaining her love for Peter and understanding that her purpose was to love Peter. And so you see her hand is reaching out to him, um, and it's reaching out to him at the level of the heart. And she begins to try to tell Peter the truth that she's been told, that has given her the vision so that she knows that she's one with God. And then she spoke her truth. Despite Peter and the other men's belief about her, she was able to have the courage and the conviction to tell the truth. And Peter said, how is it possible that the teacher talked to you in this manner with a woman about secrets which we ourselves are ignorant? Must we change our customs and listen to a woman? Yes, Peter, that's how you do it, because he was so attached to his cultural beliefs at the 3D level, his rules that he was bounded by, that men were superior and better than women. Well, if men were superior and better than women, then why did Jesus appear to her? If that was really true, wouldn't he have appeared to Peter at the resurrection? No, he appeared to her first because he was smart and he realized that, and this was part of his purpose, was to elevate the status of women. So she had the courage and the conviction to stand up to Peter because she was imbued with that aspect of Jesus. She understood that she was one with him. So she could say to him, you know, what was really the truth. And when she did, the egg turned red because Jesus said, "Go tell them that I have risen." And she ran out and she ran into them in the marketplace, and they were like not believing her story. And she picked up an egg and she said, "He has risen," and the egg turned red. Is one of the legends, right? There's several, but that seems very fitting and appropriate. And but boy, they were just not going to have it. And so what's happened in the Protestant sector in Grace Cathedral, the beautiful cathedral in San Francisco, um, has the painting of Mary Magdalene with the white egg, not the red egg. It would be great if they had the red egg picture next to it. That would be fine, but they don't. So at least I don't think they have. I haven't seen, I've been there several times. I've never seen the red egg. So we must overcome the 7 levels of wrath. The 6 is foolishness, right? Is where the wisdom is that matter matters. Like I have family of scientists, right? And they're always wanting to dissect and cut things apart and look things under microscopes, and because matter matters, right? Versus vision, the Sophic wisdom of God. That's where the real intelligence is, the real wisdom. So the third eye opens, you move into a knowing, a gnosis that's connected to source, that gives you wisdom beyond the pale. It's like the Harriet Tubman who freed the slaves. She was called the Moses of the people. She went, in the stories that I've read about her, is that she would often get told, "Go down this thing, cross this river, go this way, go that way." And then they would lose track of her. They were trying to catch her. But she was so connected and following the inner wisdom and guidance about what to do. She was over and over, not only not able to get caught herself, but she was able to get people to the north and get them free. So this is a wisdom that really works. It gets us, and if our leaders were wise, there would be no war, because they would have access to knowledge that would guide them about how to heal and how to inspire the people to the greater good instead of the greater destruction. So this is a sad time that we have leaders that are okay with the slaughtering of children and the destruction and the wars that are going on, and it's just a handful of men that are running these wars. But where are the women? We're 51% of the population, and we're not rising up as a unified force and saying, no, we don't want our sons killed. So, there's responsibility on our side. And that's because we're not connected to our own Sophic holy wisdom, God. And she sits at the throne of heaven, ready and wait, the most suppressed also of the divine feminine. My dear friends, Dan Craig Morris, who just wrote a book on the spark of the divine, the stories of Sophia, and the sophiaproject.net, and his beloved Diana Kelly, who embodies the Sophia and has had deep meditative encounters with the Sophia, guiding her and connected her with Dan. And so they are out there bringing the story of the Sophia, which is the restored sacred feminine. Because it was the fall of Sophia, and now her crown is on her head, and she is sitting on the throne, and she's available to us to guide us. In fact, what's really interesting is that when I discovered the Sistine Chapel ceiling painting of God is supposedly he's in a container of what it looks like is the divine mind, right? And he puts out his finger and he's sparking Adam to bring life into Adam. But when you look closer, you see that he's hanging onto this woman. And it turns out he's hanging on to Sophia so that he won't fall out. So I thought that was really amazing. She's part of the divine mind of God. She is, because she is the wisdom of God. So it was so great. So what did Magdalene as a Sophic wisdom do? Well, because she was infused with this wisdom, her actions launched Christianity with grace, as the as as the Gospel Mary states. Magdalene speaks her truth to the disciples because they were terrified. They thought for sure if we go back out there, they're going to crucify us. And she rose up and she spoke to them. She helped the disciples to overcome their fears, to preach the gospel. Well, what does the word gospel mean? The word gospel means good news. And so her grace was transmitted to them so they could go forth and preach the gospel, the good news that we are love. We walk forth as love, experiencing heaven on earth, not heaven in the heavens, and that we can have peace on earth. And so she said to them, do not remain in sorrow and doubt, for his grace will guide you and comfort you. And they listened to her. And because they listened to her, they went forth. She had received an elevated status. And I love this painting because it shows that she was revered like the goddess Inanna, with the toe pointing out. This was the ancient goddess who went into the underworld and was able to rise above from being abducted down into the underworld. When you see the toe pointing out, that means goddess status. The seventh self-righteous, this is the crown chakra level, is the self-righteous materialism where we're full of stuff, empty of spirit, versus open the crown chakra, full of light, connected to all. And that's where there's true generosity. Because when we're full of stuff, like we have now a hoarding phenomena, that's insane. That's the insane side. And when people let go of the insanity and get into the generosity, become open-minded, wholehearted, sharing, they know that there's nothing you can lose because love is eternal and it's everlasting, and you can't run out of love. So the queens had themselves painted as Magdalene because she represented this highest state of consciousness from the work that she did and what she achieved. And you see the blue cloak wrapped around Catherine of Aragon. And then this fully open, connected crown chakra. This is the glorious depiction that we now have. This is the model that I get to show my granddaughters, right? And Magdalene's in blue. And you notice the placement of the Christ mind. It's in her lap. She's got this. She's holding it close, but she's looking up to the heavens. She doesn't need to read anymore. The book is open because she stays open-minded to new gnosis, new knowledge. The Christ skull is at her power because she's empowered with the Christ mind. And she's wrapped in blue because she's true blue, right? And the red is the royalty. And the white is the purity. So this is all really great. So What did she overcome in the seventh powers of wrath? The soul, they asked. Where did you come from, you murderer? And where are you going, conqueror of space? That was always so curious, that line in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Why are they saying that Magdalene's soul is a murderer? Because she has overcome the illusion of separation. When we had stopped identifying with the illusion and become fully integrated beings, divinely conscious of our wholeness, that makes all the difference in the world. As she entered the bridal chamber, right, in the sacred union, becoming wholehearted, male, female, interconnected, no more duality, no more separated self. All is one life. So the George Latour painted the smoking flame, the fluid candle, because she needed that fluidity to go in and within and meditate on the light, right? In a fluid state of consciousness, passionate and whatnot, impregnating these ideas in her consciousness until she came to the place of being solid, and as within and so as without. And then she became fully awakened. And now you see her sitting up. She's complete. She's whole. The skirt is down. The shoulders are up. She's just in a full-bodied state of wholeness. Even the way her hands are interlaced, locking and over the skull, like she's kicked back a little bit. She's got it. And but she still hasn't lost her focus. For being focused on the light. But now it's royalty. And the pearls are strewn before her, right? Because she's not swine. And so it's a glorious state of consciousness. What she did to awaken, how overcame fierce conditioning and to walk the earth as divine, similar to other goddesses that walk the earth as divine. Women, Magdalene in blue, true blue. And then in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, she says to the disciples, or Jesus, she say, I go now into silence. There's a goddess called silence. She goes into the goddess. She goes within the goddess energy, receiving. Having said all this, Mary became silent, for it was in the silence the Master spoke to her so that she could receive his knowledge. So there's this within, without, above and below, all as one, all as whole. Peace be with you. And both the Marys were painted in blue, being lifted up by the angels. After telling them of her vision, then Mary rose. And the word Anastasius in Greek means to rise again or resurrect. So she had her own resurrection from her own knowledge, embracing them all, and began to speak to her brothers. He is calling us to become fully human. Embracing them all and began to speak to her brothers. He is calling us to become fully human. Remember the Little Mermaid? She wants to be whole. She wants to be fully human. And thus Mary turned their hearts toward the good. And that's our work to do, is to inspire people to turn their hearts towards the good. For it is when the good has come among us that we will see heaven on earth, peace on earth. They all went forth to spread the gospel of Mary, the gospel according to Mary. And that's the way the book ends. So thank you so much for letting me share with you and be a part of all of this. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. So, all right. Thank you so much. Blessings.
Mama da